You're creating content every week. You're showing up consistently, doing exactly what everyone told you to do, and your business is not growing, not even a little. And the worst part, content is actually working. People tell you that they love it all the time. They tell you they'd miss it if you stopped. But nobody's buying anything. And after a while, it can really start to feel like maybe the problem is you. It's not. The advice you are given is just missing half the sentence. And today, I'm going to give you the other half, so stay tuned. Before we get into it, I want to do a quick recap for anyone who's new here. We are 3 episodes into a series called The Good Advice Trap. And the whole idea behind this series is really simple. There's a lot of advice in online business that is actually good advice. Create consistent content, build your email list, show up on social media, define your offer, launch it. That's not bad advice. It's real advice. It's helpful advice. It does work for the right person, in the right context, at the right stage. The problem is that by the time that advice reaches most of us, all the context is gone. Nobody tells you what has to be true first. Nobody tells you what needs to already exist before that advice will actually work. So you follow it perfectly and nothing happens. And then it can start to feel like maybe the problem is you. It's not. That is what I call the good advice trap. And today we're looking at one of the most common versions of it. Create consistent content and your business will grow. I want to show you why that advice is incomplete and what the missing half of that sentence actually is. I got an email from Gareth. Gareth has been in my audience for forever. I think Gareth maybe bought A-Lister at some point. I've known Gareth for a while. So Gareth emails me every now and then. I wouldn't say regular, but every now and then I get a message from him and I love it because I love reading your emails. And I think I want to read you Gareth's email because I think a lot of you are going to see yourselves in this. So here's Gareth's email. Gareth says, "Hi Salome, a lot of what you've been talking about has actually resonated, particularly around spreading yourself across multiple channels without a clear conversion path. I can totally see myself in that. I've written extensively on LinkedIn, produced 15 podcast episodes, and posted on Instagram. Good engagement across all of it. People tell me they love the podcast and miss me when I skip one, but none of it is converting. Absolutely zero. Hard truth. Interestingly, where it has worked is much simpler. Over the last few years, I've generated around £50,000 almost entirely through word of mouth and long-term relationships. When I look at every client I've worked with, they all share one thing. Then they reached out when a problem appeared, so it's not really a funnel. It's more like delayed trust over time. Here's the truth. I've never actually launched anything. I've never really had a clearly defined offer. Everything I've done has been reactive. Someone approaches me, I shape something for them, I price it, and I deliver it. I'm now at a pivot point. My consulting work is slowing, and I'm looking to build something more repeatable, something that can convert strangers into the same level of trust, but much faster. What I'd love is to be able to smooth the occasional trickle of leads into a steady flow of sales. Gareth, thank you so much for your email and for letting me read it to the listeners here on the show. I really appreciate you. This email is so good, not because your situation is easy, but because you've already done the hardest part, which is being honest about what's really going on. And honestly, that is where all of this starts. Let me say something that some of you might not love. Content is not a growth strategy. Content is evidence. It's proof that you exist. It's proof that you know your stuff. Proof that you show up. That proof matters, but it doesn't sell anything on its own. Your content is the menu. It shows people what you do. It shows them what you know, and it gives them a feel for whether or not you are the right choice for them. But a menu does not feed anyone. Someone still has to order, and someone still has to take that order. And that is what's missing for Gareth. 15 podcast episodes, a LinkedIn newsletter, years of Instagram posts, excellent menu, no one taking orders. If there's no clear next step, no offer, no invitation, no path forward, people read the menu, they nod and they think, this looks great, and then they walk back out. That is not a content problem. That is a conversion problem. The good advice trap version of this sounds like this. Create consistent content and your business will grow. That is half a sentence. The full sentence is create consistent content and make sure there's somewhere for that attention to go. And somehow that second half never gets said. So now we have a whole bunch of very diligent content creators with engaged audiences and not much revenue to show for it. There's something Gareth said here that really matters. He said that where it has worked is actually much simpler. £50,000 over 5 years, almost entirely through word of mouth, long-term relationships, people who have known him for years and then reached out when the problem appeared. He even calls it delayed trust over time. And I want to be really clear about something. That's not a dead end. That's a business model. It's a slow one. It's an unstructured one, but it's a real one. Gareth can sell. People trust him. People pay him. The proof is there. So the question is not whether he's capable of building this funnel or not. The question is whether his model can take him where he wants to go. And the honest answer is probably not, but not because it's broken, because of what it costs. Every conversion in Gareth's model requires years of relationship first. There's no shortcut here. No way to speed it up. No way to repeat it quickly with someone who found him yesterday. The trust has to build slowly over time through repeated contact, through proximity. And then he has to wait until the problem shows up in that person's life at exactly the right moment and hope that he's still top of mind when it does. That's not a funnel. That's hope with good intentions. What Gareth actually wants, and honestly, what most of us want when we build a business, is something more predictable. A system where you know that if you create the right content and get the right people into the right journey, those people move forward to a sale in a way you can actually count on. Not maybe in 3 years, not when someone from an old network suddenly has a problem, not when the timing accidentally lines up. Now, this month, with someone who found you yesterday or last week or 6 weeks ago. Gareth's current model does have a conversion mechanism. And it works, but it works at a cost that is too high because it takes too much time before anything converts. And it's unpredictable because he cannot control when someone decides their problem is urgent enough to act on. And that's not me criticizing what Gareth built. That's me just explaining why it feels so frustrating. He can see the proof of what he does is valuable. He just cannot yet see how to make it work faster with more people without relying on chance. And that gap is exactly what we need to solve. So here's the distinction that really matters. There are 2 jobs your content can do. One is awareness and one is conversion. Most content advice is talking about awareness content. Show up, be consistent, add value, build trust over time. That advice is correct. Awareness content does build trust. It does keep you visible. It does warm people up. But it only works fully when conversion content exists alongside it, because conversion content has a different job. Its job is to take the person who is already nodding along, already interested, already trusting you, already paying attention, and give them a door to walk through, a lead magnet, an invitation to book a call, a clear call to action, an offer. Without that door, the person who loves your content has nowhere to go. They listen to your podcast every week. They read your LinkedIn post. They follow you on Instagram. They like you. They trust you. They think, wow, this is helpful. And then when they're finally ready to buy something, they go somewhere else. because you never told them what to do next. Gareth's LinkedIn post, his podcast, his Instagram, all awareness, all proof of expertise, none of it with a defined next step. So the fix isn't more content. The fix is adding conversion moments to the content that already exists. A call to action at the end of every episode, that could be one. A lead magnet that gives the right person a reason to raise their hand. An invitation to have a conversation. Something that helps the person who's already warm move one step closer. And this is where Gareth's real problem actually is. He's never had a clearly defined offer. Everything has been reactive. Someone approaches him, he shapes something for them. He prices it, he delivers it. And this is where it gets tricky because every client feels different. Every engagement is bespoke, shaped to their situation, their team, their context. And to be fair, that does feel true. But I want Gareth and anyone else who works like this to look past that for a second. Because yes, the solution gets applied differently every time, but the pain that brings people to him, that's usually the same. And the results they want when they leave, also usually the same. If you can stop looking at all the little differences for a minute and instead look at the pattern, the problem that keeps showing up, the results they all want, we will find the bones of a scalable offer. I do this in the agency. Every client gets a solution that is specific to them. We look at their offer, their audience, their funnel, their data. We build something that fits their solution and runs ads that fits their funnel. It's never identical to what we built for the client before them, but the pain is usually the same. I want to grow faster. I want more leads. I want my ads to actually work. And the results they want is usually the same too. A profitable business that scales with paid ads. So I can write one sales page, one page that speaks to the person who lands on it and thinks, yes, that's me. That's exactly what I need. And then when I get on a discovery call, that's when I can learn the specifics. And that's when I can match what we do to their exact situation. That's when they go, yes, you get me. And you can actually help me. And then they become clients. Gareth can do exactly the same thing. He does not need to solve the uniqueness problem before he builds the offer. He needs to find the pattern first. What is the pain that keeps showing up? What is the outcome they all want? Build the offer around that. Build the sales page around that. And then let the discovery call or the first session or the first team day be the place where the bespoke part happens. The offer doesn't need to describe every single thing you do. It needs to describe why someone would choose you instead of doing nothing. Here's something I really want Gareth to see. His word of mouth model and his content strategy are actually doing the same job. They're both building trust over time. They're both keeping him visible. And they're both creating the conditions for someone to eventually think, I need to talk to Gareth. The difference is that word of mouth already has the trust built in. The relationship is already there. When someone who has known Gareth for years reaches out, there's already enough trust for a buying conversation to happen. Content doesn't come with that automatically. You have to build that bridge on purpose. So the question for Gareth is not whether he should keep creating content. He should. He has already proved that it builds trust. The real question is what he needs to add to that content so that it creates some kind of buying moment that word of mouth used to create naturally. That's the missing piece. So let's make this practical. If you feel like you're creating a lot of content and your business is not growing, I want you to work through these 3 questions before you change anything. Question 1, do you actually have an offer? Not a vague description of what you do, a real offer with a name, a price, a specific outcome, a specific person it is for. If you don't have that yet, your content has nowhere to send people. That's where I would start. Find the pattern in your existing clients. What pain brings them to you? What results do they want? That is your offer. Question 2, does your content actually lead anywhere? Is there a clear next step at the end of it? A lead magnet, a call to action, an invitation into a conversation, something that takes the person who's already nodding along and gives them a door to walk through. Because if there is no door, they will just keep nodding and eventually they'll buy from someone who gave them one. Question 3. What is already working? Even slowly. Like Gareth, you might already have proof that people trust you and will pay you. It might just be happening in a messy or unstructured way. Before you build something completely new, understand what is already working. Because the fastest path to a scalable business is usually to take the thing that already works and build a system around it, not to throw it all out and start from scratch with a brand new funnel. Gareth's content isn't failing. His podcast is loved. His LinkedIn posts get read. His Instagram has reach. The content is doing its job. It's just not the job he thought it was doing. He was asking his content to do a job it cannot do by itself. Content creates awareness. Content builds trust. Content keeps you visible. But it needs a conversion path to turn that awareness into revenue. And that conversion path needs an offer to point to. And that offer usually comes from finding the pattern inside all that custom work you've done already. None of this is actually that complicated. It's just not the part the advice usually includes. That is the good advice trap. And Gareth, thank you for writing in. I know your email helped a lot of people today. 3 questions before you close this tab. 1. Do you have a real offer with a name, a price, and a specific outcome? 2. Does your content actually lead somewhere? 3. What is already working in your business, even if it's working slowly? Write down those answers because those 3 answers will tell you more about why your content is not converting than another month of posting ever will. This is episode 3 of 7 in the Good Advice Trap series. If you've not watched the first 2 episodes yet, episode 1 is about email lists, episode 2 is about offers, and both are linked right here. Go watch those next. I'll see you over there. Bye.